Good morning to Bromfields in the 35 corridor. I'm Daly Edwards here, the host of the Real Deal Real Estate Show, and today's special guest is Kristen Hoyt. She is the Comal County Tax Assessor Collector. We'll be discussing, what's been going on around the county in 2023, and what does 2024 look like? What changes have been occurring now and in the future? But first, it's time for the New Braunfels Title Market Report. Today, we're looking at statistics for New Braunfels. 293 homes sold in the last 90 days, with 84 in the last 30. The 90-day numbers were good against a year ago, and the last 30 is lagging behind, but only by a mere 11 units. Still very strong and a mixed market. Availability is fairly normal. Currently, we have 592 homes on the market, 3 under 200,000, 84 from 200 to 300,000, 183 from 300 to 400,000, and 125 from 400 to 500, 199 from $500,000 and up. Now that number's down about 30 units, so it seems like the market's adjusting a little bit. By the way, that's the lowest number of homes offered over $500,000 since July of 2022. Now, the rental market increased this month. It's up to 137 homes on the pool. That's up 20 units. Well, that's not terrible, but 137 is a pretty big number just for the city of New Braunfels. That'll explain later on when we talk about rental rates being flat, why. Mortgage rates continued the up and down movement, with 30-year up to 6.75, while the 15-year rose slightly to 6.1, and the FHA and VA rates were at 6.16 and 6.17. Still, those are very good numbers, and with prices adjusting flat to down, in some cases, this is going to be your best chance to buy before the prices start to escalate in the next 9 months. The bond market, of course, rose this week. That's why you saw the interest rates rise, with the 2-year and 10-year up. 2-year Treasury yield was up to 4.385. The 10-year was at 4.036. And the 91-day T-bill stayed steady at a yield of 5.26. The December jobs report came out, and the numbers were healthier than expected. 216,000 jobs added nationally, and private industry added quite a number as well. Now, some major stocks took a hit this week. Apple, Ford, and GM all took a hit. Apple, analysts say that Apple's gone innovation flat. Ford was outpaced by GM almost 2-1. And, the EV side is looking like a financial disaster. That's right. All of this talk about electric vehicles, they're starting to realize the limitations and just how much it costs to mine lithium and how dirty that really is. Now, this, of course, was noted months ago, and it took the market almost 4 months to pick up on the disaster. The stock market overall took a hit starting at the beginning of the year, though it had a big run up before the end. So we're going to call it a slight correction. The Dow was down 400 points to 37,338. The S&P down to 110 points to 4686. And the NASDAQ took a big hit, down 600 points to 14,509. Now, ouch. Anyway, national base rents on housing remain fairly flat, meaning that landlords have been inclined to hold their rent rates to retain tenants until, demand is such for rentals that it gets competitive again. All right. Now, we just finished the holidays. Where do you think folks did more shopping? In store? Nope. 5% increase in online shopping. So that means the stores were down a little bit. Will the Fed start cutting rates more in the first quarter? Well, their recent report in minutes from their meeting gives a very confusing picture. Many hope that we'll get another quarter to a half coming up, but there's fear they may not do anything at all. Just leave it where it is. Strong employment numbers and spot industry adjustments may not be enough for the Fed to really get back to growing the economy if inflation bumps up anymore. Recent reports show Americans unhappy with the economy and inflation, especially in foods and necessities. It's really putting pressure on households, and of course, COVID programs such as child care ending and other types of issues gave people a false sense of the economy. Wages rose drastically over the last year or two, and those drove prices up as well. But not enough to keep up with the inflation side that's been being corrected by the Fed. Recent talks with auto dealers, there's still a shortage of parts for new vehicles coming offline and delays in machinery in the tech world. It's all adding up to the government really malfunctioned how they dealt with the economy during COVID. The supply chain is still, pretty torn up. And until we get that back, it's going to be hard to control the inflation monster on every field. Now, add the utility companies raising rates, fees, and how the user fees, those little hidden things inside, are going, where you're getting nickeled and dimed, and, it doesn't have anything to do with how much you're using. Americans bitter on the economy, and the local governments are starting to catch the blame, which in some cases they should. So somewhere the Fed has got to look at the impact of illegal immigration. Oh, how do those connect? How about draining resources, housing shortages, putting more burden on healthcare, schools, and more? If you don't believe it, then why, with all the ones we shipped to New York, did New York State and New York City file suit against the carriers that delivered them? Because now New York City has said that the new illegal immigrants sent to them by Texas is going to cost their city $700 million. Well, welcome to what's been happening to Texas, boys and girls. I guess they got a little taste of their liberalism. Anyway, finally, oil prices rose slightly, with West Texas Intermediate up to $73.70 this week, finishing the year slightly down from a year ago, which was at $78.18, $5 a barrel. Makes gas at the pump a little good. And this week we heard that Bidenomics got the oil prices down. Well, I'm going to call this what it is: BS, 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 and BS. Why? Because Biden took the prices up. When he took office, the prices were $40 to $55 a barrel. So, sorry, you kept them flat over the last, 3 years since 2021. So, 6 months after you took office, we went up $15 to $25 a barrel. So, don't be patting yourself on the back, keeping it flat. Now, recession talks keep popping up. But I'm going to tell you what I've been telling you. History says you can't have a recession unless unemployment's above 6%. Unless we have a black swan, we will not have a recession in 2024. The stock market, interest rates up, retail rates flat, inventory for homes good, interest rates are still good enough to buy now, and better prices because, 9 fronts from now, look for them to accelerate. The bond market was up, stock market down, fuel prices still okay. Our weather's like the economy, up, down, hot and cold, and sometimes all in the same day. The weekend forecast is sunny and mild, so let's get out there this weekend and enjoy the first full year of New Year before, the Farmer's Almanac projections come in and we get chilly willy throughout the end of January and February. And by the way, congratulations to my grandson Everett for making the competition gymnastic team. Woo! Flip, flip. And that, my friends, is a real deal for January 6th. And we're back on the Real Deal Real Estate Show, and our special guest today is Kristen Hoyt. She is the tax assessor collector for Comal County. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me here again.
Great. Glad to have you. And as a reminder to our listeners, this segment is brought to you by Meyer Heating and Air Conditioning, keeping you comfortable all year long. Now, you are completing your first full term as tax assessor collector. What have been some of the big challenges you faced early on and through here,
Sure.
and how have you overcome?
Sure. Well, first I'll say 3 years, just finished 3 years of my first term, and it's been quite an honor to serve the people of Comal County. I really love the job. I love the duty, and I've had a great experience in this position, serving the people of Comal County. Challenges, education, focusing on educating folks on their rights within the property tax system here in Texas, when they can protest their value, when they can get involved in local taxing units, meetings and hearings on their tax rates, adoption.
It's a complicated issue, right?
It certainly is. It can be.
And I think the public doesn't always get it. And I think the example is you conducted some educational events last year trying to help people understand. They thought it was kind of a maneuver, but the valuations went up, but yet your tax bill can come down if you left it. But if you challenged it, your tax bill would go up. And so you had some events that began to explain the mechanism? Yes.
I saw the need. There's clearly a need for a town hall setting to talk about property taxes in our county with the changes from the past few years, increase in value, the increase in people moving here. I partnered with the Comal Appraisal District and the chief appraiser to host these property tax workshops. We hosted one in every precinct in the county. We've hosted these workshops for real estate companies, for HOAs, POAs, other organizations to try and get the word out and the education, the materials and resources out there so that they can better serve the people that they work with as well.
So really, you were out there trying to take the fear away of what tax assessors and collectors do. Sure.
I think, it's a position of tax assessor collector. There's no way around that. And even as an appraisal district, it's a tough job. But there is a system in Texas, and it may not be perfect, but there are rights that property owners have, and so educating them about those rights and the schedule and the calendar for these things to make sure that they are prepared and involved and having their say, especially as it pertains to their personal property.
So are there any helpful hints that you may be able to give listeners out there that if you feel like your valuation is a little high or a lot high, some things that help them be able to challenge and be successful?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, the appraisal district by law sends out the appraisal notices as of April 15th or so every year. So in April, be ready. That's coming to your mailbox to inform you of any changes in your value. If you don't get one of those, they have those available on their website. But that is the time of year that people are notified of their value. Any tips for protesting? I've heard that providing quotes on things that maybe need to be worked on, remodeled, comps from your realtors just doing a little bit of research just to see, are they on point with the market value, or do you really have resources and information to protest?
I think our listeners need to understand when it comes to valuation, which is not the assessor's job. Our job is to collect whatever's been agreed upon. But the issue really is understanding your value. They do drive-by appraisals, and they're not coming in and getting inside your house. So if your house is not as in good repair or whatever as your neighbor, if there's inconsistency in values in the neighborhood, if there's other data out there, seek professional advice and help you. And don't be afraid to challenge that.
Sure.
Now, okay, so I get my bill. I've gone through the challenge. I've got everything done, or I didn't. And now my bill's coming due. What is the deadline for payment of 2023's taxes without penalty?
The deadline is January 31st. So
okay, and then after that, how's the monthly penalty work?
There's a penalty and interest for each month following. Now, if you qualify for an over 65 exemption, you're permitted to pay in quarterly installments. And then if you are not able to pay, and you do in fact become delinquent, we have homestead payout agreements for those, where it's an installment plan that can help.
And we're back on the Real Deal Real Estate Show, and our special guest today is Kristen Hoyt, who's the tax assessor collector for Comal County. This segment of the show is brought to you by Daly Edwards Realty. We helping you every day be a success in real estate. Now, you are coming up at the end of your first term, and you've had some challenges, but you've also had some innovation that you've put in to the department. I think one was like boat or car registration. Yep. Talk a little bit about that.
We've brought some exciting things to the office in the time that I've been there. One of those is boat registration and titling through Texas Parks and Wildlife. It was something that was needed, something that was in demand, and I was excited to bring that to the tax office in 2021 and have our first transaction that year. That was exciting.
Now, some of the feedback I've gotten is that in the last couple of years, it's really been you've kind of taken a citizen-centric contact point with people coming into the office to either renew their license or kind of that. Have you put special training in place to help them socially or anything of that nature to help people when they're being served by your office?
The staff and the team at the tax office know that we're all public servants. We're not just here for customer service, but we're as public servants. We serve the people of Comal County, and they treat each and every one person that way. And back to the services we're offering, I mean, that is the root of some of these programs and things we brought in is that we want to provide services for the people of our county, and that includes the ability to make appointments so they can avoid the line. We recently brought in passports with the U.S. State Department. That's been a wildly successful program that was brought back to the county through our office. We also, as I mentioned earlier, with the education, the workshops, we really are focused on the taxpayers of the county and the services and education and support that they need.
Great. That's wonderful. Now, many people may not know that in 2022, just a year ago, that you received the Young American Award from the San Antonio Business Journal as one of the top 10 movers and shakers under 40.
Well, I did. That was an honor. I appreciate that recognition. It doesn't stop there. I have goals, and I want to best serve in my position here as the best I can. And so, fortunately, that award has led to other opportunities. I was able to study with the Harvard State and Local Government Executive Program in 2022. And just recently, I was chosen by the State Department in a program called ACYPL, American Council of Young Political Leaders, to travel to India with a delegation of 6 other elected officials from across the country. So that was really an honor, too. And all of these things, are able to allow me to connect with other leaders from other parts of the country. With ACYPL is the only one from Texas. And so to be able to represent Texas and represent my community while also learning how others do things and govern, it's been quite an experience.
So it's been a very educational process.
Quite educational, right? Yes.
Okay, now as we're going into 2024, are there some initiatives that you're looking to continue, or some new things to add into the department, or you're just trying to keep the collections going?
That's my number one job. I'm a collector. I've got to keep the collection rate high, but certainly looking for opportunities to better serve the county constituents. We want to always improve. We always know we can do better, so always working on training and making sure that we're providing excellent service to the people of Comal County, and who knows?
All right, so your job got changed a lot, and in some things what you're collecting, the biennium legislation added some exemptions for people or some additional money in the exemptions. So let's talk about the homestead with $100,000 first. When will it show up, and how does it really affect homeowners?
Sure. Senate Bill 2 was passed, and the governor signed into law some pretty significant property tax relief from the surplus, $18 billion. From the surplus, and we saw that reflected in our tax bills for 2023. So everyone who had a homestead on their property who qualified did receive an additional $100,000 exemption off of their value. So we saw a lot of property tax relief for those who own homes.
Yeah, so people understand that. All right, so what happens is if you're valued at $300 and taxed at that number, then that $100,000 comes off against what they would charge you. And now your $200 is what your net taxable amount would be.
And then for the school district,
right,
to be specific. And so they really pushed on school property tax relief, also by compressing the tax rate for school districts. And so not only did they give the $100,000 exemption, but they also had school districts reduce. They were able to replace those funds.
It was a trade.
Right, exactly.
Now, there's also senior exemptions.
Yes, and then that's back to the education. That's something else we really focus on, is making sure people know about exemptions that they qualify for. Homestead over 65, which it allows a ceiling. It increases the benefit even more to the homeowner. Disabled veterans, disabled person. Of course, there are different specialty exemptions, like an ag exemption, things like that. But what's also exciting that came from the recent legislation is now if you're a commercial property owner, for any property under $5 million, you will be getting a 20% cap on that value.
That's good to hear from me.
Sure, and that value, they'll be using the value from 2023 and factor that in for 2024. So that's some exciting news. And it's temporary relief until they meet again, but we'll see how that impacts.
And I think veterans need to pay attention too, because if you are a documented disabled veteran, whether it's 20%, 30%, 100%, whatever the case is, you need to go to the tax office, file for your exemption, depending on the level of which is allowed. At 100% exemption, 100% disabled. But you have to have your documentation from the government.
Sure, documentation from the VA, and you take that over actually to the appraisal district. The appraisal district processes all exemptions for the properties.
Right. You got to file it at the appraisal office so that it'll get to them, so it gets to the assessor, so they can give you the credit to not charge you as much when it comes to collection.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Now, We've talked about the tax timing and so on. If someone feels like they're in trouble to be able to pay the whole load, should they wait till after January 31 to try to make arrangements, or should they try to reach out to your office now and make arrangements?
So we accept money anytime. Any payment that can be made, we will take it and we'll apply it to that balance. The balance that's remaining on February 1st will accrue penalty and interest. Those, again, who have a homestead and qualify for an installment agreement, the taxes on February 1, once those become delinquent, we can work with you on those. But I do always encourage people should pay as much as they can before the deadline to avoid additional.
Is there any, I mean, this is kind of a weird question and something we haven't talked about, but if someone had a family member that became deceased in December or January, and so the estate hadn't been settled, and some people don't know what the taxes are accruing, is there anything that provides relief for estates because the estate was in limbo, in transition, or it just accrues?
Not that I'm aware.
Okay.
No, I'm not aware of any protection of that. I do know there's a surviving spouse exemption. So if someone qualifies for an over 65 exemption or something similar, there is a surviving spouse that would carry over. So should one person pass,
that one's pretty good.
There's that protection there.
All right. Last thing. You are running for a second term.
I am.
And that election comes up?
That primary is in March and the general in November.
Okay. And you've had a good list of accomplishments that you've gotten done there. Tell us why you're running for a second term and why we should elect you.
Well, I love what I do. That was the first thing I said. It's an honor to serve every day the people of Comal County, and I love what I do. And I hope that people are pleased with the job that I'm doing, and we want to keep making it better. And so I'm not quite done yet. I would love to continue improving the office and the services, and would be honored if I was reelected to do that.
Well, I can tell you my firsthand experience of dealing with her office, is that everybody that I run into when I go to get my tags or I have other things to do with your first contact staff, they've been excellent, and I really feel that they treat you really well, even when it's complicated or, oh my God, I don't have all my documents, or, whatever the case is. So that's a commendation just alone, because I've quite frankly, I've been to some other counties where they're not quite as
well. I'm happy to hear that. That's our goal, is to make it as simple as we can with a smile and good customer service. So we hope.
And since you took over, and now, do you see that your collection rates is in your job, that your numbers are strong and solid, and that you're finding ways to make sure that we get collected,
yes,
and those things that go uncollected are
yes,
dispensed properly, I guess I'd say.
Absolutely. We're very active on those properties that remain delinquent. And
well, great. We really appreciate you taking time out, because this is your big collection period.
January 31st. And if anyone needs to reach out, you're welcome to stop by the office and visit with me or one of the team members at the tax office. We also have a great website, email, Google messaging, where you can get a response very quickly, and certainly social media, Facebook, Twitter.
Well, great.
Instagram.
We really appreciate it. So if you need to get a hold of them, you got a website, you got phone numbers, you can drop in, talk to them.
Yeah.
You might need to set an appointment if it's complicated,
yeah, sure.
Yeah. But if it's day-to-day, you should be able to get through there pretty handily. And if you have a lot of things going on, like, 5, 10, 15 properties and your tags and everything, maybe make an appointment so they can handle you one-on-one.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Well, we really appreciate you. Good luck on your campaign.
You having me. Thank you.
All right. Well, that was Kristen Hoyt, who's the tax assessor collector for Comal County, and she'll be running for a second term, which we think is a really good thing. And so that's our show for today. Now, next week, we're going to have Robert Camarino, who is the city manager. He's going to be talking about things that went on last year in 2023 and what do we have to look forward to in 2024. We're going to be asking about, future bond programs and things that are going, how we're doing on the current bond programs that we've already passed and how they're doing, and, how's road and infrastructure going. So that'll all be next week on